on air.
Nice.
All right, just waiting for the Preaching Atheist.
Yeah. So hopefully he will join pretty quickly.
Hopefully.
So did you get any rain today?
No, it's been sunny and very warm. Very, very nice day today.
That's good. Yeah, I was going to go play some basketball, but then it started pouring down rain, so
Yep.
kind
Kind
of
of hot
canceled those
and humid
plans.
here in North Kakalaka.
So I guess we should check and see if this is actually streaming live to the YouTube channel.
I don't see it on yours, which is interesting.
Yeah, strange.
More disappointing.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know how to do that yet.
Well, I've watched the video and I followed the instructions, so I don't know what's going on.
Not sure either. Maybe. But we're definitely recording. All this will be on YouTube after the fact. But still disappointing.
Yeah.
It's alright. It's a 2-hour show and we're still waiting for one of the guests.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and start talking about our topic, or wait till he...
Let's try getting him on for just a minute longer.
Okay.
And
That works.
we'll put something in the description of the recorded video saying what time it actually started, so people don't just hear us trying to figure out Google.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Always gotta figure it out first. Here's an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends just was asking me about how religious scumbag leaders, right, how they can manipulate the minds of millions. My response was, so can I.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any other power than any other human being on this planet. We're all capable.
Right. It's the tactics that they use. They use fear.
Mm-hmm.
They use the reward or punishment of an afterlife.
Mm-hmm. They use false hope and fear. And just as powerful can be reason and logic. And it's true, reason and logic can't affect everyone. But reason and logic can affect enough. You don't have to have everyone with an open mind. All you really need is to have a good amount of people awake and aware and thinking for themselves. And even a minority, as long as it's a large enough minority, can change the world. They have before.
Right. Supposedly, look what Jesus and his disciples accomplished.
Yeah, and they were...
If Jesus really existed, which the jury is still out on that one, but supposing he did, look what he was able to accomplish. But more so, really, his disciples, really, I see them as, especially Paul, as the leader of the new movement of Christianity away from Judaism. But yeah, 2,000 years later, and look what's happened. Over 1 billion people believe in Jesus Christ.
Who's a legend, at minimum a legend, and at best never even existed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still able to, it's the idea that has the power. And the thing is the way I see it, is the people that are followers, that will always be followers, will follow a movement of reason too, as long as it's popular. Just have to make being free, having an open mind, and thinking for yourself popular. And then even if they don't have a free, open mind, they'll follow the ones that do.
Yeah.
Any news on our friend the Preaching Atheist?
He just messaged me on Google+. I think he's still trying to figure it out.
Send him another invite, and maybe this time he'll click. I've missed it too a few times while we were practicing.
Good idea.
It's only available for like 60 seconds.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that.
From what I know, I have very limited knowledge on this.
Okay, I sent it to him again.
Yep, you popped up and told me you have. This will be nice too, because the Preaching Atheist will learn a little bit about how to use Google+. Even if everything else was a failure, at least 3 people on this planet know how to use a new tool.
Right. Well,
it is unfortunate how effective fear is at controlling people, especially if you cause the fear and then give the solution. You can change a lot of things with that kind of control. Being afraid limits the brain's ability to function properly.
Right. Sorry, I'm listening. I'm still trying to get him signed in here. Well,
you know what might be happening? You might have to do that whole confirmation thing with your YouTube account.
Well, I think he just set up this thing today, was my understanding. But yeah, there may be additional steps he needs to do. I don't know.
I had to the first time we talked.
Well,
it's definitely saying you're doing it on this end. It's letting me know that you've invited people. It just doesn't tell me who, because you're the host.
Right.
Which is good to know.
Well, it's puzzling. Okay, I got another message from him.
Okay. Anyone who's watching this video will appreciate once he's on. He always has interesting things to say.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just saying thanks for our patience.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Awesome.
Hey, guys.
There we go.
Oh, man, I tell you what. Forrest Gump is a genius as far as I'm concerned. This was some crazy shit. I've never used it before, so, you know.
Well, I've never hosted a show myself either, so it's all a learning experience for all of us. So.
Yeah, I just started using it last night, talking to Glenn, and it took me 3 or 4 times before I got to the point where you're at right now. So, and I know how to use computers. So.
Yeah, well, that's what's embarrassing. That's kind of what I do for a living. So, I normally wouldn't let that information out.
Oh, speaking of information, how would you like us to address you? I want to be KauaiTime, no name, and Glenn's cool with Glenn. How would you like us to address you on air?
Well, short of profanity, I'm thinking.
I told you people would enjoy it once we got them on.
You know, Bobby's cool, I guess.
Bobby.
Yeah,
right.
I go with Bobby. Hey, you stupid.
How about stupid atheist?
I'm sure we'll get things like that in the comments from people. Hopefully not, but you never know.
Well, I was getting that from Christians when I was a Christian, so
right. Yeah,
it's pretty wild. But anyway.
Well, where we were at while we were waiting for you to join the conversation is one of my friends was explaining how religious leaders and people with a lot of money are able to control millions of people, and you can't ever affect them because they have too much invested in it. You can't free their minds. But then Glenn was bringing out that Jesus, whether he was real or just a legend, with just a handful of followers, was able to, 2,000 years later, have billions of followers and affect that many people, and that there's power in ideas, and that you don't necessarily need everyone, as long as you have enough people with an idea that even the followers will follow.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, apart from money, charisma, I mean, you look at Joseph Smith, you know, just a matter of less than 2 centuries, it's, what is it, the top 4th or 5th fastest growing religion still globally. So, you know, you just, I'm in fact going through Dr. Darrell Ray's book again, The God Virus, and if you've never read it, you really should pick it up. It's an absolute excellent read, and he does discuss some of these issues, you know, as far as how the vector, you know, infects other hosts and things of that nature with the God virus. But yeah, money plays a big part. But a lot of these guys, I mean, when you think about that, I don't know if you're familiar with like Kenneth Copeland. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Yes, definitely.
Excuse me. You know, here, at least according to his testimony, you know, we've got this guy age 30, you know, years of old. He's got an old car that can hardly run, and just by preaching Kenneth Hagin doctrine, who got his stuff from E.W. Kenyon, who got his stuff from Mary Baker Eddy, you know, it's a, you know, there are some guys who, I mean, he is the guru now of the Word of Faith movement. And at last that I read, and this is going back 1998, his ministry alone was bringing in close to $600 million a year.
God.
Yeah, and that's
crazy.
You know, so
we're in the wrong business.
I tell you what, I never did take money, and now looking back, I told my wife, I said, I'm just going to paint a target on my ass and just kick it every morning down the hallway, because the opportunities were there. I mean, the money was, I was just too damn honest, I think. I don't know. I'm not patting myself on the back. But.
And these preachers milk every bit that they can out of it. But you know, the DVDs, the CDs, the books, and just donations, you know, it's crazy. The TV evangelists are the worst, of course.
Yeah, well, they become TV evangelists once they've been able to milk the system on them. You know, they get on that circuit. They become somebody. Well, it's sort of like getting a YouTube shout-out. You know, you just need the right couple of people,
right,
to bring you to the attention of others, and that's pretty much it. And that's what happened with Copeland.
That reminds me, I need to contact Mr. Repzin and the Amazing Atheists and see if they'll do a shout out for me.
Well, yeah, we need. That'd be cool. I was thinking Bill Maher, but I thought maybe I ought to start a bit now. You know, I'll write him and tell him. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, it's incredible, and what they're doing. The stories that are told. Well, you sound like you're pretty familiar. Is it Glenn? I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
With Kenneth Copeland, were you involved in that aspect of?
I watched a lot of TV. I watched a lot of TV evangelists like Rod Parsley, Benny Hinn, Kenneth Copeland, Paula White, and other people like that. I watched all of those guys, and they had me bought hook, line, and sinker into their give $1, God will give you 100 back, and it's bullshit.
Well, it is. It is bullshit.
Well, it is amazing how much money God needs, considering He could just make money.
Yeah.
Out of nothing, or a rib.
Well, apparently He did. I mean, all the gold and silver and rubies and diamonds and everything else that's on the earth. Why not just, you know, get some angel with a scoop shovel down here and kind of dig it up? It doesn't, and it's a scam. And I believe that a lot of people start off quite honestly.
Right.
But there's just something. What's that saying? Who said it? That absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there is a point of no return. So I'm fortunate with respect that my conscience remained intact long enough for me to finally, I was able, it was hard, but I was able to make that turn and get out.
Yeah, and see, I don't see any reason to even have to worry about freeing those kind of people's minds or worrying about them at all, because there are so many good people on this planet. I've explained it to my children that, yes, there are bad people on this planet, but for every bad person, there's thousands of good people. So you don't have to necessarily worry about bad people. You just need to know that if you find one bad person, you can run to almost anybody and they will help you, because people are good. They just are misguided.
Well, yeah, I do believe that. My, I guess, like with my channel, my focus are on those that are loud and the popular. Because what happens, even though I agree with you, probably for every one Kenneth Copeland, there's 10,000 of us, or nice guys that are out there, so that type of thing. However,
theist or atheist, it matters not. They're good people.
Right. The challenge is that those, like, let's say, the Kenneth Copelands and so forth, because of their popularity, we as social creatures tend to migrate. I mean, it's just, look at the migrate. I use a migration of birds. Seldom do I see a goose flying south. It's there's always this. What is that? A gaggle? What do they call it? A whole bunch of geese together.
A gaggle.
Gaggle. So they're following, and it is really hard to turn and look for those 1,000 good people when you have 10,000 people following after this one bad. I mean, you've got to go against the tide, and that is very, very uncomfortable for humans to do, I think.
If I could butt in real quick.
Please.
I've been watching the viewers' comments. Apparently, I don't know how to do it from ours, so I brought up our video and paused it for bandwidth issues. Educated Gadfly has told us that we are on YouTube now,
nice. Just
so you know. And the KauaiTime says hello to you, GodlessGlen. And Grassburner is very, very pleased that you are on Preaching Atheist, Bobby.
Well, hello to everybody too. Thank you.
And one of my friends and fans, CWW Awesome, has given me a shout out. So it is working.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
Glad
nice
to hear it, because I was kind of worried about that.
Yep, you don't have to be worried. We have Tommy, sorry, don't know how to pronounce your last name and don't want to butcher it. He confirms that we are on YouTube, and in Denmark we look good.
Nice. Now, I don't know how they're finding the YouTube feed.
Not sure.
Maybe someone can explain that to us.
Yes. If anyone could explain how you're finding our video without going through Google+, that would be awesome.
Yes, exactly.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bobby.
Oh no, that's fine. But how long were you guys waiting for me? And this is
not long.
5 minutes.
Not 5-10 minutes at the most.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If you can somehow circumvent middle age, do it. It hasn't been kind to me. You know, trying to get into you know, and a lot of it has to do with my previous commitment to, not that I was anti-science, you know, science as a Christian, but apart from the Bible, I really did not see any need for, well, technology per se, except to find things quicker concerning the Bible.
Yeah.
So the last 3 years has been a mad race to try to bring myself up to par, and mind you, about 30 years worth. So I'm getting there, but it's slow.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, religion keeps us dumbed down, and it tries to make science and learning and all of those things the enemy. Anything that's contrary to the Bible is an enemy. Right. It's from the devil. Oh, those are doctrines of demons. It's like, seriously, doctrines of demons, okay? Of course, they get that from the Bible, but, I mean, no, facts aren't doctrines of demons. Sorry.
Well, one thing I've noticed from both me and my mother's perspective, we both have been very, very smart or just intelligent enough to like understand concepts just from watching like documentaries and stuff. Once we threw away religion, once we threw away the, not necessarily the hope for a God, but just the belief that it's most likely there isn't at least a loving personal God, and definitely not the one from the Bible or the Quran.
Right.
Our cognitive dissonance, our brain fighting itself ceased, and we've been able to just absorb information quicker to the point where we just have to go to sleep sometimes because we've learned so much our brain hurts. I truly think that there might possibly be something neurologically that happens. Not that you become better or smarter, superior to somebody who has a belief, but that your brain just stops fighting itself.
There is, well, I'm trying to remember who the scientist was, and I can't remember if Sam Harris brought this up, possibly Dawkins, but there has been a study that, I'm going to be very careful, so if I don't have that reference right at my fingertips, but I wouldn't say it if I hadn't at least seen it and read it several times, that in believing, but you know, whether it's fairies or you know what we're doing here with the Bible and so forth, that in time the brain actually does begin to shut down. It becomes almost incapable of learning anything new, or anything for that matter. But when it comes to science, and that the process itself can be reversed, but it's an arduous process at best. I know, even with myself, and if it wasn't for the fact that my wife had one of her lesser degrees in college was biology, I mean, she's kind of pulled us, you know. She's a fan of Richard Dawkins, obviously, but it does. Religion, there's a neurological malady that takes place with that, and it can be very serious. It really can be.
Right.
Hey, Glenn, do you have something called a Hangout toolbox on your screen? Educated Gadfly said, Kauai, go to the Hangout toolbox, click on the green button, go to share, hit the, I think he meant plus, then go to stream. But I don't think I have a Hangout, since you're hosting.
I don't see a toolbox. I mean, there are various buttons over here: chat, screen share, capture, cameraman,
yeah,
and
I see
other.
those too.
But I don't see what he's talking about.
Not sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is new to all of us, so
Yes.
don't feel too bad, Bobby. We are just as educated on this subject as you.
And hopefully our viewers will be patient with us.
Yeah, we promise we'll get better at this. We like learning things.
Yeah.
Let's see here. But, yeah.
I think, not to belabor a point, back on that point as far as neurologically what can happen with any sort of belief system, I would really caution anyone out there who is listening who may still have the toe in the religious, pool, as it were, to be very careful with the degree of involvement you allow your children to participate in these things. And if so, at least engage them in some form of critical thinking, at least whatever level they are, first grade, high school, whatever. But because not to do that, you're going to place roadblocks, if you will, in front of them. That later in life may be difficult, if not entirely impossible to overcome. So you really, my standpoint, I'm a radical. I say keep them away from religion, keep them away from church. That's me. I didn't. My wife and I homeschooled for over 17 years, our 3 daughters, 2 of which, interestingly enough, are atheists. The third one, not quite sure where she's at, but be very, very cautious at the limit of involvement that your children have with religion. So,
I honestly, as a father, as a single father too, see it as a form of child abuse to force religion down someone's throat, especially one that believes in hell, because the Christians believe in hell and the Muslims believe in hell, and that is terrifying to a 5-year-old to be told you have to do what these adults are saying to do or God is going to burn you forever. Even young children who have ever even slightly been burned by a hot pan, they're terrified. They're terrified of falling. They're terrified of burning. There's 2 things that are just imprinted into children pretty much from birth. And it's just cruel.
It's a very horrible. I think it's the worst thing that you can teach anyone, that they're going to be punished in an afterlife for eternity. What's weird, though, is I didn't actually believe that the last 5-10 years I was a Christian. I had somehow modified my beliefs to more along the Jehovah's Witness or Seventh-day Adventist, where you're simply annihilated. And believe it or not, I know most Christians don't agree with this, but I think the overall message of the Bible teaches that. And it would take me a while to go through that and explain why that is, but that was just my stance. But I always had a problem with the idea of hell and how to reconcile a good, loving, benevolent God, a merciful God, with a God that's supposedly a just God who would torture people for eternity for sins committed during the course of 70, 80 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, most people don't really think about what eternity actually means. A big number most people know in society right now that can really understand is 1 billion, because there's billionaires and they hear the word billion a lot. And eternity is 1 billion times 1 billion times 1 billion, and that's not even 1 second. It never, ever, ever ends. I mean, I love having an orgasm. But if it lasted a billion years, I might change my mind on that.
Well, yeah, certainly.
Forever, no break, no end. And when you feel like it's been forever, it hasn't even started yet.
Right. There's actually women who have a disorder to where they actually have orgasms all day long, and so they've now what's supposed to be a thing of pleasure has now became a source of pain and discomfort. Think about if you're in heaven stuck for eternity, and you have to constantly worship God, and you have to do that over and over. That's what the Bible says. You sing holy, 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 and all that. So.
Yeah, my wife and I would. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's concepts like forever and eternal sin and things that you just really can never fully understand, which are utilized by religions, or like God never had a beginning. Like, if he had never had a beginning, how did it ever get to the point where he decided to create the universe? These questions can't be answered, so you just have to say, oh, you just have to have faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, precisely. That was always an enigma, but I think like most Christians, particularly those that are committed, at least to the dogmas of Scripture, I ignored it because to dwell too long on, well, that very, question there was only one conclusion. I'm either believing it simply because I want it to be so, or it's just not true. And so I would never allow myself to go past a certain point of thought where things like that were concerned.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was raised Jehovah Witness, and I remember asking my mother that whole "if God never had a beginning" question. How did we get to this point now? Because it went forever before. So how did we ever get to now? And she could never satisfy that answer, and it never went away. It never, ever went away. It's always been in my mind until I became an atheist, and then I realized most likely everything has a beginning. And so if there was a God, it would have to have a beginning too. And just that's the answer. If there is a God, and obviously we all agree it's not the God of the Bible or the Koran, it had to have had a beginning. Because that's just everything we see around us has a beginning and an end. Everything is finite.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. I know one of the doctrines that, at least in the groups that I hung out in for all those years, was that God was emulating himself, the female part, the male part, and so forth. And so Earth was supposed to be some sort, and Copeland would promote this as well, some sort of carbon copy of what has existed, does exist, and will exist in eternity. But then when you start looking at that, and again, I was boggled by it, was if that's true, then at what point does God die? I mean, if this is a replica of spiritual things, then he's had to have a beginning, because everything that I know has a beginning, whether it's a tree, a dog, a human, whatever. It's born, it lives, it gets old if it's lucky, and then it dies and returns back to the earth in some fashion. And that's something that God is. And that's just the only answer that you had to hang with, or you were out.
Yeah, there were so many different concepts being a Christian. I don't even know how
that's true.
How we could wrap our mind around it. God is eternal. Like you were saying, he's always existed. And then the concept of the Trinity, he's one God, but yet he's somehow three people. But he's one God. So, and people will come up with all kind of concoctions to try to explain that. And it was very mind-blowing, these various concepts. It took a lot of energy away from me because you're sitting here trying to rack your brain to try to get a good grasp on these doctrines, and there really is no satisfactory answer for a lot of them.
That's why free thinking, critical thinking, logic, and such are considered to be evil, because once you realize these answers cannot be questioned, they don't have answers, or the answers are unsatisfactory to your belief system, that starts the wheels turning and inevitably leads to logic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a couple comments and stuff. Interlocus, he agrees with us. Teaching a false world view would be and is child abuse, and I believe all three of us agree with that. It is. It's child abuse to teach a child that Santa Claus exists after they start questioning it. It's child abuse to tell a child they're going to hell when you have no evidence of a hell ever existing. I would have to say that is child abuse. It's mental torment.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree to an extent. But like with the thing of like Santa Claus, I mean, we know a lot of parents do it. You know, it's a form of having fun with your children. But I guess you're saying once they start doubting and questioning it, you continue to force them to believe a lie. I mean, I understand where you're coming from.
That might not technically be child abuse, but it's definitely unhealthy for a free mind.
Yeah.
For questioning things, because if you do not question, if you aren't able to question things, you're forever going to be a slave.
Yeah, I mean, not getting a present is not the same thing as you're going to go to hell and burn forever. To me, the doctrine of hell really is a type of, it's a type of mental child abuse, really. That's what it is. Unless someone has a better explanation.
Well, yeah, I mean, God being so much greater than man, at least men have laws that protect children from such mental abuse. If I were to tell a young child, a 3- and 4-year-old, every night, and scare them with these horror stories, and just completely bring about a horrible state of mental instability, and it was found out, say, through the local school system, family services would be in this house in a heartbeat, removing that child from that abuse, but stick the name of Jesus on it, or Bible, or God, and it's perfectly okay. Same thing, no difference.
Or even Satan.
Or Satan, no difference whatsoever, but now it's acceptable. And personally, I think that's just, as far as I'm concerned in this country, that's just that's shameful. It's just absolutely shameful.
Yeah, it's a shameful double standard.
Absolutely.
Well, it's like the Number One Son's video where he explains that if he had a 4-year-old boy running towards a road and a truck was coming, as a simple human being, father, he wouldn't be like, well, I warned him, so he's just going to have to face the consequences of his actions. No, as a loving father, you would do everything in your power, screaming at your lungs, running full force, waving your arms so the truck sees you, trying to stop the consequence of that child not listening to you.
Yeah, quite thought-provoking. Actually, that's why I'm silent. That's very true.
It's one of the most powerful atheist videos I've ever seen. Does anyone remember the actual title of that? God is no loving father, something like that. It's Number One Son. It's a very good video. Theist or atheist, if you haven't seen it, it's very powerful.
What was that again? I'm sorry. God is
no father.
Okay.
Number One Son, O-N-E, all one word. Very, very powerful video. I also have a question. I'm guessing this is for us. How can you keep a theist from continually walking away from reason when religion thinks for them?
I can speak to my case, to my experience. First of all, depending on the level of commitment, if we're talking someone who's absolutely convinced to the point that they would sacrifice themselves or their very life, generally speaking, you can't. I know with me, it took some family situation, more specifically with my daughters. They're pulling away from me. I lived for my children. I loved my children, wanted children from the time I was a teen. Just couldn't wait to be a dad. Also, just the lack of experience that the Bible promised I would have: give and it shall be given, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be open, answered prayer, and I found myself over the years as whittling down the seriousness of my prayers to the point where if an ant walks across the sidewalk, that's a sign from God, because I was getting nothing. So I think disaster or trauma, or maybe just finally getting tired of not seeing the results that are promised in the Bible. Other than that, they're not reasonable people. They wouldn't. Well, what's that saying? If you could reason with religious people, there'd be no religious people. And that's very true.
Well, one of the things I have that I could add as a point, I told Glenn this last night, is it also depends upon how much time you have with that person. For instance, my stepfather, he's sick of diabetes, and he goes through, insulin shock a few times a year, and he's one shot of insulin away from death pretty much at any moment. He didn't want to hear it, and he despised that I was an atheist, and he despised that I talked reason to my mother, who was a preacher for 7 years on YouTube, and convinced her of atheism. We left him alone. We didn't talk about atheism around him. We didn't talk about religion at all. Even ones he thought was silly, creationism, he would jump in and say, stop talking about my God, when his God, he didn't believe in creation. He wasn't even Christian anymore. He was supposed to be a Muslim. We just were awesome. We just were awesome atheists. We were loving and kind and compassionate and stepped our game up. And now he will go days at a time without praying for his food. He stopped trying to defend his apparently powerless God from defending himself. Just be a good person. Whether you're an atheist or agnostic or whatever, just be good. When you have that much time with somebody, when they're being stubborn about their beliefs, you don't have to force anyone to think. Do you want to be right, or do you want people to think?
Yeah, I think so. It's such as my current situation. My father just was diagnosed with colon cancer, went into surgery. Came out, everything kind of okay. We'll be going to chemo. Now, my family, the irony of the whole thing is 30-some years ago, I brought Christ to the family. Now the whole clan is pretty much, except for me, religious at this point, but at no point in his recuperation in the hospital, which took about 2 weeks longer than what was initially thought, because he just would get better, then get worse. And not one time did I bring up anything. If he mentioned something about prayer, or, as one of my sisters did, in that situation, one, that's not the place to start trying to, reason with them. It's a very unreasonable situation, number one. And two, you gotta, for me, I pick my battles, and basically, if I'm thinking, they're just, I'll just go about my business and, as you're saying, love them, and just be the good person that I am to them, and that's all that you can do. as far as that's concerned.
But I also think it's immoral. This is my personal standpoint, but I think it's immoral if somebody is 85 years old and been a Jehovah's Witness their whole life, or if somebody is dying, to try to tell them that religion is false or that there is no afterlife. I believe once somebody's sick or old, they can't really help change the world anyways. They don't have enough time or enough energy to help. So there's no reason to talk reason to them. Just let them believe they're old and they're sick, or one or the other.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Several reasons why. Number one, generally speaking, unless somebody brings the topic up, I just like hanging out with people, that type of thing. Now, more and more people know what I do, and I'm getting confronted more, or at least asked questions more. But yeah, you got somebody who's 85, 90 years old. First of all, they're not believing or believing it's not going to do anything after they're gone. We're all going into the ground. If it wasn't for, I guess, formaldehyde, we'd all be part of the earth again. But so it's really fruitless, I think, and I agree with you. I think it's mean to try to convince someone on their deathbed, or someone who might be finding some comfort, in their last days in believing something. And what's that going to do to me? It's not going to hurt me at all. So unless I'm asked directly, what do you think? And even then, I may or may not decide to say something, just for the mental benefit of the individual.
And I wanted to highlight a story. A church that I went to when I was much younger. Well, actually, I was married, but my wife and I attended a church, and there was this very good Christian family, a really good people. They had a son. I will not say the name of the church or the name of the people, because people that watch my channel may know them. It may be harmful in some way emotionally, but they lost a son in a car accident. And what was crazy is they continued to, they were right back at church the next week. And I thought to myself, of course I didn't think about it too long, because you don't want to doubt God or have negative thoughts, but I thought, how can a loving God allow someone like this? They're really righteous, great people. He allowed their kid to die and didn't save the kid, and now these people are back at church the next week. Of course, they don't blame God, of course, but I thought to myself, I couldn't do this if I was them. I couldn't be back at church. And now, being an atheist, I look back on it, and I've thought about writing them, but I stopped, because I thought, what am I going to accomplish if I say, hey, your God isn't real, or I wouldn't do it in a way that's mean, but even bringing it up, these people, they have a hope that they're going to be reunited with their son in heaven. And, everybody, here's my point for even saying this, not to tell a sad story, but I think everybody deserves to know the truth. But in some instances, you really aren't going to accomplish anything. Now, if these people would probably be devastated if they felt like they would never be able to see their son again. So if they were to ever become atheists, who knows what that could do to them? But at the same time, what kind of mental anguish are you going through to think that the God you love and worship allowed your child? This accident was beyond gruesome. I don't even want to go into details. It was horrible. And this young man was very well loved in the community, had lots of friends, and was a really great guy. That bothered me to no end as a Christian, how God could allow that. But even saying something to these people about that situation couldn't. What would it accomplish? You know what I'm saying?
Well, their default position for people who are religious at that point is well, young children and babies go right to heaven. And see, people try to say, well, atheists, they just, they're just bitter at God. I've noticed personally that any really deeply religious person that has something terrible happen to them, it only reconcretes their faith. All the atheists I've ever met, and by atheists I mean people who were theists, were devout, and then became atheists after having the knowledge of religion, became atheists because they wanted to do what was right in God's eyes. And so they actively searched for the real religion, what God really wanted. And inevitably, it brings you to all religion as we know it is false. All gods as we know them are false gods.
Exactly.
I have a question from one of our viewers. Ninja God 8 wants to know what our opinion is on the fallen angels in the Bible.
Well, doctrinally speaking, there's several doctrines surrounding that. Common referred to, you might think, is demonology. Some believe there are two classes. There are evil spirits, where they are embodied or disembodied spirits of possibly those who were destroyed in Noah's flood, or in some Christian circles, they believe there was a pre-Adamic race prior to Adam and Eve, and that the death of these are evil spirits. Some believe that evil spirits are also I think it was the Nephilim, the sons of God that had sexual relations with the daughters of men, and had these giants, and I guess that's where the Goliath and the Philistines. And then there are demons, which are themselves actual angels that followed Lucifer. And I can't remember if it was Revelation chapter 6, but it talks about a third of the stars being swooped out of the heavens and falling to the earth, and that being interpreted as a third of the angelic host. So there are the evil spirits, disembodied, spirits, and then actual fallen angels, which are demons. And that's how I knew it for all those years and how I taught it.
Do you want to say your opinion first, Glenn?
Yeah. About the angels, fallen angels, and all that. Yeah, I heard a lot of different theories as a Christian. My personal view was that you had angelic beings in heaven, a third of them rebelled against God, and so then they were kicked out, and then they are referred to in the Bible either as evil spirits or demons. And so when I make my videos talking about demons or evil spirits, I kind of lump them together, but that's a simple way of doing it. But yeah, certainly there are different interpretations of that. And I didn't believe in disembodied spirits as a Christian, though I did know people that did. And there are Christians that believe that some spirits, they hang around for whatever reason. And then talking about the Nephilim and there were supposedly some demons that had sex with women, as crazy as that may sound, and there was an offspring of giants and things like that. So yeah, just all kinds of interesting and absurd ideas.
Yeah, well, my opinion on it is I'm going to go purely atheistic on this one.
Yeah.
The Bible is recycled garbage written by superstitious ancient human beings, and so I believe in fallen angels about as much as I believe in a pink invisible unicorn orbiting Pluto. But I do see the fallen angels as a reasoning point with theists over where they call it free will. Because they say God can't show himself, because if he does, then we will have no free will. Well, it's pretty accepted by most Christians that a third of the angels left God, chose not to worship God. And they were in his presence. They knew he was God. They knew how much power he had. They knew they were going to be damned forever. And they still chose to not worship him. So how can you say as human beings that if God shows himself, it won't be a test, we won't have free will, we'll be forced to follow him, when a third of the angels didn't, and they were made perfect?
Yeah.
But that's my opinion on it. They're invisible pink unicorns orbiting Pluto, and they saw God, and they still don't worship him.
Yeah. And obviously, me being an atheist, I actually reject all supernatural claims. So I was giving a kind of like a statement, you know, based on what I used to see them. I don't think there's demons, evil spirits, disembodied spirits, goblins, fairies, or anything, really.
Yeah, that's more of skepticism than atheism. Atheism is the rejection of a deity, rejection of all supernatural claims. That falls more under skepticism.
Right, yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, atheism's a simple, you reject the belief in a God. So, or you...
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. We just go one God further.
Yeah, we're all atheists to some degree.
So, well, I was just watching a debate today with Christopher Hitchens and my old pal, William Lane Craig. And you could just see the frustration in Hitchens' response to Craig, as he continually would refer to atheists as some sort of belief system. You know, that's one of the reasons I myself I kind of shy away from the word atheism. I generally try not to use it in any of the videos or when I'm talking, because as a former Christian, you know, basically if I don't have an enemy, I have nothing to do, you know, as a Christian. And so the ISM suffix denotes a philosophy, a religion, a sort of an assortment of beliefs. And when you take that away, well, there's nothing to combat. You know, we don't have two ideologies clashing. And you can just see the frustration with Christopher Hitchens, with William Lane Craig, as he continually was bantering him concerning the atheist belief. And he told him, he said, listen, for the last time, it's not atheist belief. By its very definition, an atheist has non-belief. So there is no belief. There's no set philosophies or beliefs with an atheist. It's just someone, as you're saying, a skeptic that just simply doesn't accept these fairy tales carte blanche, you know. So
yeah, one of the things theists are programmed, it seems to me, is that to say, well, being an atheist is a belief, and you just have to go with the pure definitions. No, disbelief is the opposite of belief. It's not a belief. It's the lack of a belief. You don't have to. It's impossible to call disbelief or lack of belief a belief. Just like it's impossible to call atheism a religion. The definition of religion is the belief and worship of a deity.
I think that people do that. I think the Christian leaders that accuse us of having a belief system and having a religion, they do it really to aggravate us. I'm convinced of that. They really don't. Because in other times they will say, you don't believe in anything. They will use whatever is convenient for the situation to further their cause.
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely correct.
Not all of them, but some of them. Some of these people like William Lane Craig.
I'm not as kind concerning Craig as a lot of my atheist friends in the St. Louis area, because I studied after him for quite a few years. And
oh, you're in the St. Louis area?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My wife is from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What part of St. Louis? Just, do you know what part?
Yeah, the part, like the southwest part, near like near Jefferson County area.
Okay. Well, I actually live in a small, the most southernmost burb of St. Louis.
Oh.
Not within the city itself, so I guess it'd been Oakville and Melville, maybe around that area she was at. But I just had this discussion here with a meetup group that my wife and I host once a month, and about William Lane Craig. And personally, I find him dishonest, even though he has that appearance. Yeah. But I find it dishonest because I listen to the words. Plus, I started after him for I know 10 years maybe, I guess, as I was myself getting into apologetics as well. And because it just, with him, Hank Hanegraaff, others like that, when you listen to them, they never, ever address an atheist question head on. It's just, and not even just with the circular reasoning that they do, they will skirt the issue or they will try to divert the issue. And in my opinion, that is wholly dishonest. I mean, either say, I don't know, or you got me on that one.
Yeah.
But let's cut with the philosophy. I mean, a rock's a rock as I can see it. I know what a rock looks like. So, show me the evidence, or let's get past it, So I get frustrated myself sometimes with them.
I went to a Unpacking Atheism. If that's an incorrect title, someone can correct me. But I think it's called Unpacking Atheism. It was a seminar that Craig and some others did. And, it was irritating because, you know what, he didn't unpack anything about atheism. He didn't address the real reasons. He didn't get to the root of why we are what we are. But yeah, you're right. I think he doesn't address issues head on, and he skirts around issues. He misrepresents atheists like crazy. It's unbelievable.
It is. Yeah, he does.
Most people have a misconception of what atheism is. Even intelligent people. I have a cousin, and he's pretty smart. I mean, he rejects the Bible. He rejects the Christian God. He considers himself an agnostic. He told me he was agnostic, and I was like, oh, well, I'm an atheist. And he said, you worship Satan? He's agnostic, and that's the default. You worship? I'm like, no, we don't believe in any deities, including Satan. We don't worship Satan. A Satanist has to actively believe first in Satan and then worship him. So it's just interesting. I'm going to have to one day make a video on why atheists are not Satanists, or why it's impossible for atheists to be Satanists, because I'm called a Satanist at least once a week. At least it's better than being told you're going to burn in hell 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Someone posted a comment that says, arguably, strong atheism is belief. What do you guys say about that?
Well, one, define strong atheism. I mean, it's,
sure.
That's pretty ambiguous, personally.
Yeah. That's relative. I mean,
it's extremely relative. And furthermore, if a doctor comes up to me and says, well, we've done a battery of tests and you have heart disease, what am I going to do? Say, well, you know what? That's just being a strong doctor. If you're strong in something, hopefully you have the evidence to back it. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced that I need to breathe oxygen. I mean, I am an oxygenist. I'm going to breathe it if I want to live, and I'm very strong about that. So, I mean, I really would like a better definition than just
yeah, and he's probably obviously he's probably talking about textbooks, strong atheism. I never used that word. But, the thing about it is, have you ever met anyone that says with 100% certainty that there is no God? I've not met anyone. With 100%.
I will go on a limb and say that there's a 100% certainty the God of the Bible doesn't exist. But, But God, you have to define what God is. If you mean omnipotent, omnipresent, all-loving, eternal, no, that doesn't exist. It just doesn't. It's a self-contradictory statement. It's impossible. It's as close to impossible as anything can be.
Right. And I don't even like to say, I mean, I'm pretty close. I like to tell people I'm 99.99% sure that the God of the Bible isn't real, because I don't like to state things with 100% certainty. So that's where I stand. I mean, he could, of all we know, there is that little bit of possibility that this is just some big entertainment to him, and he's evil. But I really think that's absurd. Even pointing that out, I think the possibility that that's true is absurd, because I think it's such a small likelihood. So even saying that, you know.
As a scientist, or having a scientific viewpoint, if you're not technically a scientist, doesn't ever enable 100%. I mean, even the theory of gravity, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, is still a 99.99999%, because you have to be willing to overturn anything if evidence has been given.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or you are just closed-minded.
And speaking of that, if the Christians could present evidence that their God is real, if there was evidence for a God, please, we really would like to see that.
Yeah, FadeX Time put on here that it's rejection or lack of belief in proof of God. So my response was, what proof?
Yeah.
I'm unaware of any actual proof of a deity, of any deity, Thor or Zeus or Yahweh or Allah or.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, we don't have proof.
We want proof.
Yeah.
Give us it. I've mentioned in my videos, I don't want to be right. I want a personal God in an afterlife, but I don't see any reason as a human being who questions and lives in reality to believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was talking to my wife the other day. You know, I sit there and on occasion, you know, I've only been in the position I am intellectually now for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, but, you know, there's hardly at least a week now that goes by that I sit down and think, damn it, it would be so nice if, you know, the God that we used to cherry pick out of the scriptures, this loving, caring, I will heal you, I will bless you, your crops will, you know, flourish, you know, that I could go to for answers in dark times, and, you know, in those dark hours of the night when, you know, loneliness just kind of suffocates you like a blanket.
Did you ever get an answer?
Yeah, it would be wonderful, you know, but it's just not there. You know? So if anybody's looking for a God, I think it would be atheists. We'd love to know that we're not alone.
I tell people, please convince me, show me why this is true, so I can tell my mother, because she would love it. It's just she thinks too much now, and she doesn't see any reason, let alone proof, just reason to believe in a personal God with all the suffering and with all the torment and with all the evil in this world. That would be a non-issue for God to fix.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, one of the CWW Awesome said, I don't want a God. I feel more free not having my life completely controlled. And I can understand, you know, I kind of feel, I've got mixed feelings. Like, but, I mean, ultimately, it's not about what I want. It's about, I've always thought of myself as someone that seeks truth. And that's why I'm an atheist now, because the roads that I took, I can't, and I'll go on record saying this, I didn't choose to be an atheist. No, I chose to research and study, and inevitably that led to me being an atheist.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
So
yeah, CWW Awesome also said, do you think it'd be stupid to be an atheist 1,500 years ago? And I don't know if I'd call it stupid, but I believe the tool set for atheism didn't exist. We didn't understand thunder and lightning. That's why we had Thor. That it wouldn't have been stupid, but it would have been unfounded, because without knowledge, God is a pretty damn good answer.
Well, he was the only answer without the knowledge. You know, I mean, the tools, as you were saying, you know, they weren't there. We didn't know about ions as they interact in the atmosphere. We didn't know about meteorites that slam into the earth and kill others. We didn't know about the cracks in the earth's crust and volcanoes and, you know, or microbes that, you know, eat a person's body from the inside out. None of that was known, and they look for explanations, and, well, if you can't see your enemy, but yet you're being attacked, well, then it's a spiritual entity. I mean, what other answer was there?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we didn't even know that the Earth revolved around the sun because it took calculus to figure that out, and we didn't have calculus 1,500 years ago. It would have been stupid to think that we are the ones going around the sun when you can clearly see the sun going around the earth. There's your proof right there, because they didn't have tools of science. We need science because human beings' observations by default are flawed.
Very much so.
We lie to ourselves. Our brain is programmed to lie to yourself. That's what we do best. Science, tools, equipment that's actually used to measure reality are unbiased. A foot is a foot to a ruler, no matter what or whoever's using it. But if you ask somebody how big was that fish, oh, it was a foot. I have another question from email. Why do people still believe in prayer that can heal?
Because a lot of people believe the Bible is the Word of God, and it instructs to pray for people to get well.
I think it's because they want it to, but unfortunately our wants and our hopes do not dictate reality. Wanting something is the least true anything can be. I want $1 million, but it's not true that I have one. I don't know. That's my point. It has to do with false hope, wanting to live forever, wanting a perfect wife, wanting your arm to grow back is natural, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But to tell other people what you want to be true is true without any evidence is wrong. It helps no one.
And harms, actually, I think. I think people have made foolish, I know I did, during this 30-year period of time, to make foolish decisions to either do or not do something, Christian Science being a very good one, with people letting their children die of disease when a cure is only a medicine cabinet away. Believing without evidence, I mean, it's deadly in some instances. And
it is. My mother, like I said, we were raised Jehovah's Witness. My mother had a hysterectomy and lost, I'm not sure how much, but quarts of blood, and it's against the religion to have a blood transfusion. But since it was the early 90s, they had this new treatment where they would give you the plasma without the red blood cells. And even that, the elders weren't very happy about. But she was sick for weeks, but she lived. She would have died if they didn't give her some kind of scientific alternative to this religious dogma. I would not have a mother right now, and I don't know who I would be without her, because I would have lost her at 14.
Wow. Yeah, that would have been very traumatic, I think, at any age, but 14 for sure.
Especially me. I'm a mama's boy. I don't know if you can tell from my videos, but I kind of love my mama.
Mamas are pretty special. I love my mama as well, so. But that's, again, and not just on those issues, financial issues, marital issues, you know, it's, again, I think as we were saying earlier, show us where this stuff is anything more than just myth, you know, just superstition. And otherwise, I believe we have a responsibility, and this is kind of where I'm taking my videos. I have a responsibility, I feel at least, to beat back these people, you know, because they are needlessly hurting others. You know, if they would just, like Glenn was saying, you know, he's an atheist not by choice, but because he, and I was the same way, was a pursuer of truth, and eventually one day just decided not to be afraid where, you know, the evidence led, and this is where it led, you know, and I am much the happier for it, believe me.
I enjoy life so much more now. Every day is a gift. Before, I thought this was just a test, that this was just something you had to endure to make it to where we belong. Because apparently we're all supposed to live in heaven forever, but for some reason we have to do this first, which makes no sense when you actually think about it, but, you know, I wasn't thinking at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe not so correctly.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking with our own mind. We were thinking that other people's answers were correct without researching them ourselves.
We were wearing our God-tinted glasses.
God goggles.
God goggles, yeah.
Hey, that's a product. Maybe we can make some money on it.
God makes a lot of money, so.
Hey, if people could sell holy water and blessed handkerchiefs, I mean, we can create something and get rich, right?
Yeah. What could an atheist do? What would we have? Well, I've got a dinosaur. I don't know. Maybe I could, you know, send it off to the Vatican and at least have a cardinal bless it and see what happens. You know?
Did you name the dinosaur yet? Did you name it?
You know, I kind of narrowed it down to. I know I sound mean sometimes in my videos, but I'm such a coward when it comes to having to choose one individual. There's a couple of names. One was Hitch Slaposaurus. And I really kind of sliding over to that one. I've got the list. It's not in front of me. I wish I had it in front of me now. But I'm really looking at Hitch Slaposaurus. It's really catchy and it kind of just flows off the tongue.
Nice.
I like my Ignoramusaurus, but that's pretty good.
That's the other one.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hitch Slaposaurus is pretty good. I like that.
And anyway, my other one, I guess I will keep the name silent. But it just kind of fit the mood at the time when I named it. So anyway,
I like naming things. Everything I have has a name.
Well, my wife's family, when I first married her, I thought, what the hell did I get myself into, man? I mean, they named their cars.
Mm-hmm.
And so each one of the family has a car, but they had names for them. And, you know, I should have known then, maybe. I said, run fast. But I don't know. If you look at look around in the studio, I'm a yard sale nut. And I guess if you see a grown man with all these plastic dinosaurs, you're going to have to wonder about him. So anyway, I like dinosaurs. What can I tell you?
Dinosaurs are cool.
Yeah. Well, we know they were, the bones were planted by Satan, but
right, of course. It was a test.
He's got to test our faith to see if we're loyal. If we want to believe the word of God.
That's why he made stars that are billions and billions of light years away, but only 6,000 years have passed. But somehow the light got here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Well, here we go. I don't know how much time we got for this, Glenn, or do we have any?
We got about 40 more minutes.
About 40 minutes left in the show.
I guess one of the when I first got on Facebook and shared with a lot, because I know I had a lot of family there, and I had taken a picture of one of my study Bibles that couldn't even read because of all the markings and annotations that I'd made and so forth. And because there was some question as to whether or not I actually studied the Bible. So I just took a picture of it and put it up there and said, well, here it is. And after all these years of study, this is why I'm an atheist today. And just had family members, calling you ignorant. You're such an ignorant man. How can you read the Bible like that? And I wish I had that Bible and come to your conclusion. And I wrote back. I said, look, I just told you 30-some years of this. Here's the study. I'm now an atheist. Instead of calling me ignorant, why not, ask yourself this question: how can someone who was so devoted and devout become an atheist? Instead of running scared, which they do, and I can understand why. But going back to the thing of God testing, that was one of the things I had trouble with, where and I think it's Deuteronomy chapter 13, the whole chapter, where it talks about someone who brings a teaching other than what the law teaches, whether it's your wife that you love, a friend that your best friend, or whomever, you're to kill them. And it goes on to talk about how God has sent this lying doctrine to test you to see whether or not you'd be faithful. And then you run over to James chapter 1, and one of the first things it talks about is that God does not test anyone.
Right.
But I could never come to grips with that.
Tell that to Abraham.
Excuse me?
Tell that to Abraham.
Yeah.
God doesn't test anyone.
Oh, another thing I love is when you when I start quoting scriptures to theists, or Christians, I should say, that are telling me that I don't have any morals. I quote like Hosea 13:16, where it tells where the Israelites are told to cut open pregnant women and dash infants against rocks, or 1 Samuel 15:3, where it says to kill all suckling children, all babies, and oxen and sheep. You're taking that out of context. So I always ask, in what context is it okay to rip open pregnant women and to kill babies? Absolutely. And for some reason, they never answer my question. They just ask me a different one. I don't know why. But apparently there is a context where it's okay to rip open pregnant women and to kill infants.
Yeah, it's funny how, like you said, I use that a lot. I'm like, in what context could that ever be? Right? And of course, they're not going to give you an answer on that one. I mean, well, I've heard a couple of sorry ass answers for that. Well, God knew that those babies would grow up in a world by evil parents, and he knew they would be evil and reject him, so he took them on to heaven. He did the merciful thing. So I'm like, really? So murdering babies is the merciful thing? So.
Or like, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, but even the innocent women. Okay, so he took the innocent babies to heaven, but what about the women that died? And doesn't that sort of fly in the face of apparently abortion is allowed in certain circumstances? I mean, that's when you finally, as atheists now stepping back and looking at this, you just want to grab your head. So what the hell was I thinking here?
There's a T-shirt. There's a T-shirt on Zazzle that says, "Since when has God been against killing babies?" And it has 12 scriptures on it. It's an awesome shirt. I'm definitely gonna have to pick it up one day.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I will gladly show the Christians, that their God is not pro-life.
Yeah, definitely not. Mass murderer, genocide, sexist, racist, homophobic God.
Mm-hmm.
That's petty and wants to be worshipped and needs to be worshipped.
And in the case of Jesus, actually, tortures and slaughters an innocent person just to satisfy his own bloodthirsty tendencies. Really, what's that all about?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it makes no sense once you have the skill set of critical thinking and real, actual, concrete humanist morals. It really is. It's disgusting. It's so hard to read the Bible now. It really is, because before my mind would just gloss over the ugly and just focus on the pretty little poems and the pretty psalms and whatnot. But when you're actually reading it and wondering, did this actually happen? not necessarily the flood or anything, but just like when the Israelites are going through the Promised Land and just destroying complete cities and not leaving anything that breathes alive. Like it's Deuteronomy 20:16. Do not let anything that breathes live. Well, did you stomp all the ants because ants breathe? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. To point out that the talking primate has now joined.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
I bet it muted his mic.
Let's see if he figures it out. We all had to.
Yeah. Try unmuting it. That probably will fix it.
Well, if not, we got a cool skeleton to look at now.
Exactly.
I'm not sure, but I think I dated her once, but that's just mean.
Yeah, well, we should all just pray. Maybe God will fix it.
Exactly.
Well, the Valley of Dead Bones, I mean, it worked there.
Right.
Oh,
we lost him.
All right, which one of you cast it out?
Extinction level event right there.
That was fucking rude. Don't be casting out these skeletons, man. What the hell?
God hates fossils.
Cast them out. Oh.
That or we offended him.
Oh, no.
We've offended him.
But it was a sexy skeleton, so skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't make any bones about it. So, I just can't. I won't go there. It's about 4:30 here. That's almost past my joke time. So, I'm usually funny between 8 and 8:01. So.
Yeah.
It's still pretty funny at 4:26 your time.
Oh gosh, but you ought to see me in the shower now. That's no laughing matter, but that's another.
I think I'll pass on that one.
I believe that was unnecessary. So just pretend we didn't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
And the awkward conversations we have waiting for the talking primate.
That's amazing how brave I get. My wife is upstairs, So
yeah,
she still thinks I'm an altar boy, but that's another story altogether.
I feel bad for your wife now.
I've always felt bad for her, but it's her fault. She said yes. Nobody forced her. No gun to her head, Oh, well. Oh, wow.
I just told my wife that God said she was going to be my wife, and at first she resisted. She didn't. She's like, no, I don't want to be your wife. But then she came around. This is a true story. Now I make myself look like a dick.
You use God to get someone to marry you. That's a low blow. God said you have to. Where'd you pick her up? Saudi Arabia?
No, at the good Christian college I went to.
So Saudi Arabia.
No, Lee University. But no, I really believe that that's the problem with delusions. Is the reason that's important to help people be free from various things is because it affects your whole life. Like, I am severely in debt because of student loans that I thought God wanted me to go to a Christian college. And then I thought he wanted me to move around the country. So I went from Tennessee to Missouri. Yeah, we lived in St. Louis 3 different times, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so from Tennessee to St. Louis, Missouri, back to Tennessee, back to Missouri. Then we moved to Florida. We moved back to Tennessee, back to Florida, back to Tennessee, moved to Georgia, and then now we moved to Knoxville. And since we're atheists, we don't fucking move around. We stay in one spot. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
My wife makes more money than ever. And while we were Bible-thumping Christians, we didn't make anything. Our needs were hardly ever met. And now that we're God-bashing, Bible-bashing atheists, we're blessed. But God makes the rain fall on the just and the unjust.
Apparently he makes it rain more on the unjust.
Apparently.
I know lots of rich people that are not very just. But just because you have money doesn't mean you're evil either. Right. You have to actually be evil. I mean, theist, atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, Hindu, it doesn't matter. If you're evil, and society calls you out on it.
Yeah, exactly. At least we should. So
I'm disappointed. I wanted the talking primate to join us.
I sent him another invitation, so hopefully he will get his act together and get his ass on here.
Now you're taunting him. Now he's definitely going to come.
Yeah, wow. Definitely. Need to get his bag of bones on here.
So you went to Lee College?
Yeah.
And now was that Church of God?
Church of God, yes.
Church of God. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
when I first got back from the military in 1980 from Germany, and my wife and I got married that within 6 weeks after that, we were part of the Church of God. And at the time, they approached me to begin a new work as a pastor in a small town in Mendota, Illinois. And at that time, I was the youngest person in that organization's history to ever be basically awarded a pastorate.
Nice.
And I remember, I know this is a side stuff, but that brings back a lot of memories, good and bad.
That's fine.
But I remember we were just newly married. We were staying with the pastor and his wife, and when the I forgot the overseers, forgot the hierarchy now of this, but there were two gentlemen from corporate, someone who either was over Illinois, this is in northern Illinois, and then some sort of regional, some directors came down to interview me and talk with me and spent the day with me and the local Church of God pastor, and that's when they offered that to me. And I remember, it's just so odd. I look back at it now, I can't even get it together up here intellectually yet as to that religious mindset. And here I was in it for 33 years. I went out to the cornfield, began to pray. I thought God said, no, don't be a part of this organization. And I remember 3 times while in that cornfield, which now thinking about it, I think there's a movie about that, so maybe that was the issue there, that I thought I had heard this, no, don't do it. So I'm thinking, well, these guys will understand because they're God-fearing people, right? They're supposed to love God. That's why they're in the position that they are in. So when I informed them that God had told me, 1, not to accept the pastorate that they have so generously offered me, and 2, to not become a member of the Church of God, you would have thought I told them that Jesus Christ was homosexual and that Mary was a prostitute. Because they lit into me, and my poor wife, I mean, she was just totally devastated. Talk about the love of God. The pastor was so upset, screaming at the top of his voice, broke his his eyeglasses on the table as he slammed him down, called me the devil. So that morning, I was the golden child of the area. Right. Barely 20 years old, full of the Spirit, preach up a storm, as they say, or preach one down, whichever. And by that evening, I was possessed of the devil. And it's
funny how quick they can turn on you. I've seen that time and time again.
Yes,
it's amazing.
That fast. But anyway, that's when I knew Lee College because I had thought about attending there seriously myself. So anyway,
I actually worked for the Church of God for this had nothing to do with me going to Lee University, but my wife and I was hired to be house parents for the Church of God. And we were great, we were sent by God, blah, blah, blah. I kid you not, a week later, we're fired, we're told to get the hell off the property. Of course, they didn't use the word hell. They're just like, get off the property. You've got 24 hours. And they're like, we don't care if you're homeless. We don't care if you're on the street. Get off the property. And we didn't do a damn thing to be treated like that. My eyes began to open that these people...
Hey,
Primate.
Hey.
Finally. But yeah,
Well, if I could interject, we got 4 people now. We've got 26 minutes left on our schedule, which we know we have to stop because of personal reasons. Yeah. Let's each give our viewpoint on how best to free minds. Somebody besides me can go first because I've been thinking about this for a while. But in your opinion, Bobby, how do you think is the best? What do you think is the best way to go about freeing minds of people that are good people that just need something to free them from something, from anything, from religion, from control, from dogma, from anything?
Okay. Well, boy, that's hard. I think each case is different, each individual. One thing, you hit it on the head somewhat earlier, by just being there, being a good person. Let them know that atheists, we don't eat babies. We love knowledge. We love people. We are by far more moral than any biblical God could be, and by virtue of our necessity to survive, and I think it's just innately built into the human person. I was in children's ministry for years, and I think the case might be is that we need to, one, keep religion out of the school as much as possible, and in a fashion, we need to educate our children. I really think that as far as an individual, their commitment level, it depends on how easy or how difficult it's going to be. Loving them, but at the same time, they need to understand that, I don't have to respect religion. It's not something that is respectable, and I'm not going to respect it. Now, I'll respect you as a person if I receive that respect, but I have found, at least those that I've been involved with over the years, that unfortunately, now this is just my experience, nothing short of a tragedy. It's either going to drive them further into the myth, or it's going to finally open their eyes, as it did one family. We used to have a house church. We hosted house church in our home here, and started subscribing to much of the antitheist doctrines, that pre-Catholic era, and they could see the father of one of the groups that came, or the families, was anything but Christian or proclaiming, and it was a disaster. So, just being there, let your light shine. I could not get away with it. I had to say it, or I would not have slept tonight. And,
let your little light shine.
Let my little light shine. And well, is that what they call it? But it's just be there, be educated, continue with your education. Stay in the know, if you will, and just be quick with an answer. Let's do the 1 Peter 3:15 thing. Be quick with an answer, but at least ours is the correct answer. It's
right,
based on evidence.
Well, it can be proven to be correct.
Exactly, it can be proven to be correct. So that's just my thing. I will continue to go out and bitch slap them on YouTube. I'm after a certain sect of bullies. That's really who I'm designing for. Out here in St. Louis, as long as people are cordial with me, I think just being kind-hearted and being sensitive is a big issue. So
what kind of bullies? You said a specific kind of bully. Which ones specifically get you irritated? The ones that bully over Muslims, atheists, gay people?
I would say yes, basically all of that. The bullies, an example is that ignorant pastor, I think whether it was in Virginia, who wanted to have these concentration camps, lesbians on this side, gays on this side, don't, fly in food and that kind of bullshit.
Oh yeah, he was horrible.
Those people pissed me off. Pat Robertson's. Now, I was involved in a lot of these people, and I hoped that I was, I almost said hope to God, some habits are just hard to break. But I hope that I wasn't as belligerent and as unkind as these people are. But the John Hagees, the Pat Robertsons, preachers like this, the Sarah Palins, the Bill O'Reillys. These people are who I'm after. I'm after the loudmouths.
Yeah, you hit a lot of names that I have a problem with as well. I think we're very similar in that regards.
I think so, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, for time reasons, let's let the talking primate give his. What do you think? How do you think is the best way to free minds?
The best way to free minds. I don't want to say anything that you guys have already said. I think you all make valid. I think you all. Yes, of course. I don't know. Mockery, I think, is probably the key. And it hurts, and it stings, but when people realize, I think that when people, well, speaking from personal experience, I mean, I know you just told your story of your mother who was apparently a Jehovah's Witness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's my background. So I think once you find something that resonates with people, where they realize that they've been fooled or
duped.
I don't know. Yeah, duped, brainwashed, shysted, whatever you want to call it, and you can bring that to their attention in a way that I call it my whole life has been a lie syndrome.
So using satire.
Well, obviously, that's what I'm all about. That's the way it was presented to me, and it worked. But then again, I have those kind of sensibilities, and I was deeply offended, and I hated my parents for the longest time, even though I got out of the witnessing 20 years ago. Now going on 30 years now. But I still have deep animosity for people who, throw this nonsense into their children's heads of what have you. So I think mockery is probably the best way, because here's the thing, humor sells. Okay, humor's in advertising, it's on TV. People get humor when things are funny, and if people can, take pot shots at themselves, it kind of like opens up the stopgap a little bit, so you can actually squeak in there with some stuff. So, look. Oh, and the social media sites are great too. So if you can kind of, in a nice way, because people don't like being told that their entire existence is a lie. But the truth and the reality of it is, and regardless of what your take is on the whole universe and how it got here and whatever, all you basically have to do is tell them that we simply don't know. You have your idea of how it happened, and I'm telling you that I don't know. Who's got more integrity? Who's the more moral person? You know what I mean? You claim to know everything, and you've got it all locked up, and you got like a cozy little plot in heaven, and you think that I'm going to another place, and I'm telling you that, first of all, there's no way that you can know that, and secondly, you couldn't possibly know that. You know what I mean? So I just redundancied myself, right? There's no way you could possibly know. I claim I don't know who's more open-minded. So I think mockery, yeah, definitely mockery, jokes, easy humor.
Easy humor.
Yeah. You don't have to tell them their religion is cancer on a daily basis, but I do that too.
Right.
Well, if I did that, man, I wouldn't have a show. I enjoy it too much. I know. Shame on me.
I think both techniques have their place, and everybody has different personalities. Whereas Primate likes to joke around and poke at religion more. I do that a little bit, but I'm also in your face, like angry, like calling these people out on their bullshit. So I see the validity for both approaches, and it works differently for different people. So, yeah.
What is your personal? What's your personal thing? In what way do you believe, Glenn, that is the best way to go about freeing minds?
Well, I mean, I could say something so simple like sharing truth with people. You know, I mean, I could say 10 different things. It's hard to put it into just one thing. I could say teaching people to think for themselves. Like that's what I try to do with my channel. I'm not trying to make instant converts. And I would question if someone said, "Oh, I watched one of your videos and I deconverted." I would be like, "Seriously?" It would be hard for me to comprehend. It took me almost a year to walk away from religion completely. I believe it's a process for most people. I didn't just wake up and say, "Oh, I don't believe any of this shit." So, I do think that sharing, being patient with people, I mean, there's a time and a place for it. I do poke sometimes. I've got a whole series called BS. The rapture is BS. Demons are BS. I mean, that some people are going to get offended at that. It's not my intent to offend them, but I know at the same time that it's going to strike a nerve with some people. But they say this. I like that saying that the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. So that's
very good.
Yeah.
I try to take a different aspect to it. I try to use science to help with this question. So I use neuroscience. The reason why people don't want to let go of their beliefs is because in their brain they are fighting themselves in a process called cognitive dissonance. What this is if you're holding a belief system, it's purely in your brain, and if you are given information that is contradictory to your belief system, you reject it. And if you're given more information, you get angry, or you get offended, or you start shutting down. I want to get somebody to that point. I want them to be angry, or I want them to be offended, and then I walk away. I walk away, and I let them stew on it for a while. Then, after they've had time to calm down, I push them again. I push them until they get angry or they get offended. I don't let them shut down. I keep going until I get that anger or offensive level. And then I stop and I walk away. And I come back again and do it again. And eventually, because you didn't just drill them with information, but you gave them enough that it pissed them off, and then you were able to do it again because they're still willing to listen to you because you didn't cause mental anguish to them. Eventually, so much information is in their brain, contrary to their belief, that their dissonance stops. And then they're able to accept information, all this information that the brain never let them accept before. And I find it's very effective. It worked for my mother, and it's worked for a friend of mine. And I am still using it on people I love, like my sister, and on my uncle and other people, where it isn't enough yet. It hasn't been enough yet. But then after they've reached that point, then I want them to start teaching me what they believe and why, or teaching me something, or change the subject to maintain communication where it's not one-sided, and it's not every time you talk to me I'm going to get you to this point where you get pissed off or offended, but I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to change the subject or walk away, and next time I talk to you I'm going to talk about what you want to talk about, and I'm going to actually listen to you, and if you have a good point I'm going to give you that good point, or I'm going to say from a religious standpoint I see where you're coming from, and from a religious standpoint that makes sense, and give them justification where they deserve it, and then start attacking their brain again, and do it until I piss them off, and then either change the subject or walk away, so that I am slowly but surely putting in little nuggets of information, true, verifiable, or at least reasonable information into the brain, so that I can break that dissonance. Once the dissonance is broken, their mind is free. That's my way of doing it, and doing it lovingly and kindly. And I talk to people that are theists, like I would to my 7 or 9-year-old sons, which is not an insult, because if you knew my 7 or 9-year-olds, they're fucking awesome people. And I never talk down to them. I never belittle them. I never talk to them like they're stupid. And when they don't want to talk to me, I talk to them about things they want to talk to. And it's a loving, kind, scientific way of going about freeing minds. And that's why my videos are in the way that I present them. And I'm getting better at it. It's a new skill set I've gained. And I'm trying to learn more about neuroscience and psychology, because I believe science can overcome these unscientific, brainwashing nonsense that's in their brain. And it's the best way I see to do it. But I also see the point of satire. I also see the point of humor. For instance, when I was learning that Yahweh was evil, I watched Dark Matter 2525's videos because it's funny. It's true, and it's scary that God is evil, but at least they were funny, and cartoons are non-threatening. So that's a very good way to go about it. And some people deserve to shut the fuck up. And I'm going to pull out my big guns, and I am going to make you shut up, because you are not listening. You are not answering my question. You are not adding anything useful to my comment section. So I'm going to pull out the big guns, and I am going to launch nukes and rockets at you using the Bible and the Koran, because I have that skill set. And I'm going to make you look like an idiot so that you go away, because you aren't helping nobody. You can't save everybody. You can't free everyone's minds. And to have a one-sided conversation is not a conversation. That's an argument. I refuse to argue. You want to argue, I'm going to hurt you. And I'm going to hurt you quickly. And you're going to go away. They always do. But that's how I go about it. I pick and choose my battles, and if I actually think somebody wants to learn, or if I love them enough that I want them to learn, whether they like it or not, I use science, and I use psychology, and I use patience, and I then talk about what they want to talk about. It seems to be effective for me, but I'm new at this. I've only been trying to help people for 2 weeks, and I started on my mother 2 months ago. And if you can convert an ex-Jehovah Witness, deconvert an ex-Jehovah Witness, Muslim, preacher, you have pretty good power on the whole freeing minds front. I mean, I went after the biggest Goliath I could find first, and the one I cared the most about, because my children are already agnostic/atheists, because I didn't shove God down their throat even when I was a theist. I never shoved God down their throat. My son was asking me questions about God. Why do we know God exists? Why is the Bible right? Why this? Why that? And it was me trying to be a good, loving father and actually answer his questions with truth that led me to atheism. I blame, in a good way, my oldest son with his questions, and I blame being a good father, and I blame loving God, the God that I believed in, so much that I didn't want to be wrong or evil or say the wrong thing for my atheism. It was love. It was love that brought me to atheism.
Well, for me, it was love that brought me into Christianity per se, but it was bullying that actually pushed me out. And I think with people that I know, that I'm close with, that I love, that I would most likely, that approach. I mean, even strangers. I mean, if somebody comes up and asks me, and I get that from time to time, especially at atheist meetups that I go to. I have a decent conversation. Whereas, I just enjoy bullying the hell out of bullies, and I look at myself as like a bird dog. That flushes out quail for the hunter to kill. I'll kick them out of the bushes. It's up to you to damn. That's and for me that has. When I say it has worked, I've had several, as you can imagine, very pissed off Christians that will respond to me harshly, and I'm expecting that. In fact, I need that, because at least I know they're alive, and I really enjoy the hate mail that I get and things of that nature, only because now I've got their attention. And so far, I've been doing this since last July, but not until a few months ago when I had the shout out to two very big YouTubers and some other fairly decent YouTubers have, my audience grown. But what's interesting, I've had about a half a dozen that have started off, name-calling, just vicious, vile comments toward me. And my response to them are exactly as you're saying. It's okay, fine. Let's, so I'm very calm. I try to push them out of the bushes so that we can address them. And it's amazing at how many atheists and that come out of the woodwork and start actually dialoguing with these people. And I'll just back off. But that's kind of is it? Well, I guess we don't want to go by first names with the talking primate. But I think you were saying something about ridicule? Because I had been reading. I can't remember who I read after, if it was Dawkins or Harris, or was watching a YouTube video, that no one likes to be ridiculed, but it's one of the best forms for change because it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them feel like they're no longer part of a group, and it's that social aspect of being Homo sapiens that is very important to us. And I just think that is just an excellent method, personally.
Yeah, if you ridicule the method that people use, like if it's attacking gay people, if you ridicule that, or ridicule them for their behavior, however you look at it, then hopefully that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get these people to wake up and to change their behaviors. And so yeah, I think you have to kind of bully a bully. You have to kind of ridicule their positions and their behaviors.
Well, it's worked for thousands of years. That's a tribal way of changing behavior, is if somebody is acting against the tribe that's doing something that is not helping the tribe, they ridicule you. You are ostracized. You have to earn back respect again.
Yeah.
So I can see how that's effective because it's been effective for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's in the code.
Yeah.
The code.
Yeah.
The human code.
Oh, Bobby, my name's Dana. If you want to call me Dana, it's fine.
Okay, Dana. I knew what his name was, but I didn't know if we wanted to. If you wanted public, I'm sure it was, but.
I've been doc dropped before. I should be all right.
And I just go by KauaiTime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's come to my house with a sword or musket. So, okay so far.
You know what the Jewish priests always said? It's okay so far, but that's a bad joke. Unless you know about it. Never mind. Oh.
Yeah, that's awful. It's horrible.
Yeah, you do get less funny as time goes by.
He looks like he's getting tired. He needs another cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah. I had coffee coming about 3 hours ago. I don't know where the hell it went. I can smell it brewing. It's like, okay, walking down the steps. Anyway.
My caffeine is soda. I can't drink coffee. I just can't do it.
Oh, man, I love coffee. I'd eat the beans and drink the water later if I have to. I just love coffee.
Have you had the chocolate-covered coffee beans? Those are good.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's just me, but it looks like I think Bobby's like one of those guys who would say, "I'm going to go put coffee on the stove."
On the stove.
Go put some coffee on the stove.
Put it on the
I bet you've said that before.
Well, sure. Back before electricity, we all put coffee on the stove.
There we go.
Well, it looks like we got 2 minutes left. This was pretty damn successful, if I do say so myself. I enjoyed it. I believe I learned something about Google+. It still is a foreign entity to me, but I'm glad we got it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Got some personal stories in and actually hit the topic at the end.
Yeah.
So that's good. We'll have to definitely do this again in the future.
Sure. KauaiTime, I was going to say something really quickly. When you started your bit on how to, deconvert somebody, I couldn't help but think that my wife, the Lutheran, who we had that time period where she was very serious about her faith, and I mean, not so much a churchgoer, but needed that kind of thing to hang on to. And then just kind of like needling at her and say, okay, now tell me again why God would create the hurricane and people would pray to the God that made the hurricane that killed their people. You know what I mean? So, and then finally, after a while, she's like, you know, I don't think I believe this shit either.
Yeah, you have to pick at them, and then you have to walk away, and you have to pick a little bit more. But the thing is it takes time. It takes time. They've been religious for years. So if it takes you a month, you're working pretty quickly. I mean, people deserve that time. Nobody's ever going to change once they've went into a defensive stance. They're going to be defensive. You have to maintain that fine equilibrium of insulting and pissing them off and then walking away, or changing the subject to something they want to hear, something fluffy with butterflies and snowflakes and raindrops, and then go back to serious shit again. I think that's the most effective way, honestly. But I do think satire and ridicule, and I do think that some people just need to have a thermonuclear bomb set off in their living room so that they just be quiet and quit flooding nonsense and perpetuating just bullshit everywhere. Because some people just need to shut up.
Absolutely. And we have to put them in their place. You know?
Doesn't mean deserve it.
It doesn't mean we hate them. Doesn't mean we hate them. It means we hate their actions. It means we hate what they stand for. When I'm accused of hating people, there's very few people I would even say I hate. I mean, I don't like to use the word in relation to people. I just you know, and if I do say it, it's usually just a metaphor. It's like, you know, like you say, God, I hate this red light, or I hate paying taxes, or, well, you might really hate that. That might not be a good analogy, but people use it in regards to people, but don't necessarily mean it. But
I hate evil people.
Yeah, well.
But I don't hate people.
Yeah, I get you.
I have a saying.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of Christians say, I hate the sin, but not the sinner. Yeah, I hate the belief, but not the believer.
Yeah.
Very good. I like that.
I don't hate Muslims. I despise Islam. I don't hate Jehovah Witnesses. I despise the governing body. I hate them. They're evil.
I hate Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
I don't. I was one. You were one.
Jehovah's Witnesses. I know. I am what I despise.
You were one.
What are the odds we have 2 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses on the panel? Cool.
I get to be the only Muslim.
I don't hate them. I don't hate them. I just want to push them on my porch and make them bleed.
I invite them in. I invite them in. I close the door. They run. I'm on the list. I'm on the do not call list everywhere I live. They only come once.
It's going to take a whole other 2 hours to hit Jehovah's Witnesses. So we'll have to sit for another time.
That is a topic for another show.
Yeah, because I have to run and pick up my wife from work. We go out for dinner on Sunday nights as a good little family that we are.
Well, talking Primate, make sure you add me to your circle, and I will find your YouTube page and I will subscribe too. But I have you already in my sights there, the Preaching Atheist. I got you. You can't even breathe without me knowing. You wore out one of my yellow highlighters already.
I have a comment for that, but that little sweetie right there, I'm on my best behavior now. Hey, sweetie.
Say bye-bye.
I was trying to get her to wave. She gets shy.
All right, guys.
All right, it's been fun.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to sign off.
Nice
Thanks for coming on, Dana. And
nice meeting you, Dana.
Bobby?
Oh, remind me too, Bobby, I'll explain how you can make a very visible playlist on YouTube and put this on your homepage too. Okay. I'm going to have to do it too because Glenn's the only one that's going to have it on his homepage as his video. We're going to have to make a playlist called like Hangouts or something like that, and you'll have to make it visible on your homepage so that people can see.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that was good.
All right. See you guys next time.
All right.
Nice evening, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.